Welcome and thank you for joining today. I'm presenting on behalf of Neybor Consulting, where we help small businesses navigate the federal marketplace. Today's session is a practical, in-depth walkthrough of FAR Part 19, the part of the Federal Acquisition Regulation that governs how the federal government does business with small companies. By the end of this session, you will know what each subpart of Part 19 covers, where the dollars are, what set-aside programs you may qualify for, the key thresholds and rules of the road, and the concrete next steps to position your business to win. Let's get started. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with why Part 19 matters in the size of the federal small business marketplace. Next, we'll build the foundations, size standards, NAIS codes, set asides, and the famous Rule of Two. From there, we'll cover subcontracting and the Certificate of Competency process. We'll then dive into the 4 socioeconomic set-aside programs, 8A, HUBZone, SDVOSB, and WOSB. We'll walk through a worked example showing exactly how a small business captures a $400,000 set-aside. Then we'll close with a practical roadmap and your next steps. FAR Part 19 matters for 3 reasons. First, it's a statutory mandate. Congress requires the government to direct at least 23% of prime contract dollars to small businesses each year, with carved-out goals for socioeconomic categories. Second, Part 19 reserves portions of the federal market exclusively for small businesses, removing the large primes from the competition. Third, programs inside Part 19, most notably 8A, give a structured business development runway with access to sole source awards. The bottom line, in fiscal 2024, the federal government awarded a record $179.6 billion in prime contracts to small businesses, about 28.4% of all eligible spend. That is the opportunity Part 19 creates. Here you can see the statutory goals that drive everything in Part 19. The headline number is 23% of prime contract dollars to small businesses overall. Within that, the government targets at least 5% each to small disadvantaged businesses, women-owned small businesses, and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and 3% to HUBZone firms. 3 things to keep in mind. These are floors. Agencies are scored every year by the SBA on whether they meet each one. Categories overlap, so one company can count toward multiple buckets. And finally, most categories miss their goals most years, especially HUBZone. That gap is real money looking for qualified vendors, and it's why being correctly certified is so valuable. Here is the entire structure of FAR Part 19 on a single slide. Subparts 19.1 through 19.4 establish the foundations, what small means, the policies that govern set asides, how status gets determined, and how SBA coordinates with buying agencies. Subpart 19.5 contains the workhorse provisions for total and partial set-asides. Subpart 19.6 is the Certificate of Competency safety net we'll cover later. Subpart 19.7 is the subcontracting program for large primes. Subparts 19.8, 19.13, 19.13, and 19.15 are the 4 socioeconomic programs, 8A, HUBZone, SDVOSB, and WOSB, and WOSB. Most of your time as a small business will be spent in 19.5 and the 4 socioeconomic subparts. We'll spend time on each. Before we go deeper, 6 terms you'll hear all day. A small business concern is a for-profit firm that is independently owned, not dominant in its field, and meets the size standard for the work being procured. The NAIS code is the 6-digit industry code attached to every solicitation. The size standard, measured in employees or annual receipts, sets the ceiling for being considered small under that NAICS. A set-aside is a solicitation reserved for 1 or more categories of small businesses. A sole source award is a non-competitive award to a single qualified firm, most often used in the 4 socioeconomic programs. And finally, the Rule of Two. If at least 2 responsible small businesses are likely to bid at fair market prices, the contracting officer must set the buy aside. We'll come back to this concept several times. Subpart 19.1 governs size standards. Every federal solicitation is assigned exactly 1 NAICS code, the 6-digit industry classification, and that code carries with it a size standard. There are 2 flavors. Receipts-based size standards apply to most services and construction NAICS. The calculation is your average annual receipts over the past 5 fiscal years. So a management consulting firm at NAICS 541611 is small if it averages $24.5 million or less. Employee-based size standards apply mainly to manufacturing and wholesale, measured as your average employees per pay period over the most recent 24 months. So an aircraft manufacturer is small up to 1,500 employees. 2 practical points. The size standard is per NAICS, so a firm can be small under one code and larger under another, and these standards are reviewed and adjusted periodically by the SBA. Determining whether you're small is a 4-step test. Step 1. Find the NAICS code on the solicitation. It's in Block 10 of the SF 1449 form or near the top of the synopsis on SAM.gov. Step 2. Look up the size standard either in SBA's Table of Size Standards or in FAR 19.102. Step 3. Compute your size. For services, that's your 5-year average receipts. For manufacturing, your 24-month average headcount. And critically, you must include receipts and employees from any affiliates. Step 4. Compare and self-certify in SAM.gov. The example at the bottom shows a real case. ABC Consulting averages $18.4 million on a NAICS with a $24.5 million ceiling. They are small. They self-certify and they are eligible to bid on the set-aside. 2 principles drive everything in subpart 19.2. First, FAR 19.203. There is no order of precedence among the 4 socioeconomic programs. The contracting officer is free to choose which program to use based on market research and best value. So a savvy small business that holds 2 or 3 of these certifications has multiple lanes into the same procurement. Second, FAR 19.201 puts goaling on a yearly cycle. SBA negotiates a specific goal with each agency, agencies report quarterly, and SBA publishes a public scorecard with letter grades. Where this matters for you, agencies that are short on a particular goal are highly motivated to find qualifying vendors before year-end. SBA's Procurement Center representatives, PCRs, can review acquisition plans up to 120 days before solicitation and push for set-asides where appropriate. This is the picture for fiscal 2024. The navy bars are actual performance. The gold bars are the statutory goal. 3 takeaways. First, agencies actually hit the overall small business goal at 28.4%, well above the 23% target. Small disadvantaged business led the pack at 12.9% against a 5% goal. WOSB and SDVOSB also exceeded their 5% floors. The second story is HUBZone. The government has missed the 3% HUBZone goal almost every year of the program's existence. FY24 came in at 2.6%. Third, what this means for you. Agencies under pressure on a goal are motivated buyers. If you can become HUBZone certified, you walk into rooms where contracting officers genuinely need you. The persistent gap is real opportunity. Subpart 19.3 controls how your status gets determined and challenged. There are 4 moving parts. Self-certification used to be the dominant model and is still the rule for plain small business status, where you check a box in SAM.gov. But for the 4 socioeconomic programs, SBA now requires upfront certification through MESPA certifications. SDVOSB self-certification in particular ended December 22, 2024. Size protests can come from competitors or contracting officers within 5 business days of the award notice. SBA's area office decides. And finally, the 2025 FAR overhaul changed recertification. Status now locks in at the Master IDIQ award, so agencies get small business credit for the entire life of the contract based on the company's status at award time. That is a significant simplification. Subpart 19.4 is about the SBA's footprint inside agency procurement. There are 4 roles you should know by name. The small business specialist sits inside each buying agency and is your first point of contact for capability briefings. The Procurement Center representative is an SBA employee embedded at major buying activities. They review acquisition strategies, push for set-asides, and can appeal a contracting officer's decision up to the agency head. The commercial market rep works on the prime side, reviewing the subcontracting plans of large primes. And the business opportunity specialist is your assigned caseworker if you're in the ADA program. They sign off on every ADA contract action. Make these 4 people your friends. They hold the keys to a lot of doors. Subpart 19.5 is the workhorse of Part 19. Here's the toolkit organized by dollar value. Below the micro-purchase threshold of $15,000, effective October 1st, 2025, the contracting officer has discretion to direct the buy to any responsible vendor. Between $15,000 and the simplified acquisition threshold of $350,000, the rule of 2 is mandatory. If 2 responsible small businesses can compete, the buy must be set aside. Above $350,000, total set-asides are still required when the rule of 2 is met. For multiple award vehicles like the GSA schedules and other IDEQs, contracting officers can do partial set-asides or set-aside reserves, entire pools just for small businesses. And finally, the targeted set-asides. 8A, HUBZone, SDVOSB, WOSB let agencies set aside a buy for a specific socioeconomic category, including sole source up to certain ceilings. We'll cover each of those programs in their own slides. The rule of 2 is the single most important provision in Part 19, and the lever you can actually pull as a small business. It says if the contracting officer reasonably expects to receive offers from 2 or more responsible small businesses at fair market prices, the by MUST be set aside. The decision flows from market research. If the answer is yes, the buy goes out as a 100% small business set aside and large firms are excluded. That's the green path on the left. If the answer is no, the buy goes unrestricted, but the CO has to document why, and SBA's PCR can push back. Here's the practical implication. Your job is to make sure the CO finds you during market research. Submit responses to sources sought notices, file capability statements, and meet with the agency's small business specialist. Every time you do that, you make the YES branch easier to defend. FAR 19.505, what we call the 50% rule, or limitations on subcontracting, is the price of admission for set-aside work. The rule is straightforward. If you win a set-aside, you can't simply pass the work through to a large prime. For services and supplies, you must perform at least 50% of the work with your own employees. For general construction, it's 15%. For specialty trades, it's 25%. The exclusion to know subcontracts to similarly situated entities, meaning subs that hold the same socioeconomic status, like another HUBZone firm helping a HUBZone firm, those count toward your self-performance requirement. So you can structure deeper teaming arrangements as long as your subs match your status. Subpart 19.6 is one of the most useful but underused tools for small businesses, the Certificate of Competency, or COCOC. Here's the situation. A contracting officer thinks you can't perform, maybe they question your capacity, your credit, or your past performance, and they're about to reject your offer. Before they can do that on a small business, FAR 19.602-1 requires them to refer the matter to SBA. SBA then contacts you, gives you 5 working days to apply for a COC, reviews your evidence, and decides within roughly 15 working days. About 70% of COC applications are approved. And here's the key. If SBA issues a COC, the contracting agency must award you the contract, period. So if you ever get word the CO is leaning toward a non-responsibility determination, pick up the phone with SBA the same day. Subpart 19.7 sits on the prime side of the table, but it creates the second biggest revenue lane for small businesses. Anytime a large prime wins a contract over $900,000 or $2 million for construction, they must submit a small business subcontracting plan with explicit dollar and percentage goals across every socioeconomic category. They report progress through ESRs, individual subcontract reports semi-annually, and summary subcontract reports annually. And critically, FAR 19.705-7 attaches liquidated damages and CPAR's impact when a prime fails to make a good faith effort to meet its plan. What this means for you. Large primes have a strong audited need to find capable small business teaming partners. Build relationships with the OSBPs and small business liaison officers at the top primes in your space. They have plans to fill. A quick scoreboard on subcontracting plans. The October 2025 FAR overhaul raised the dollar thresholds for the first time in nearly a decade. Standard contracts now require a plan above $900,000, up from $750,000. Construction is now $2 million, up from $1.5 million. Subcontract flowdown moved in step. On the reporting side, primes file individual subcontract reports, ISRs, twice a year in April and October, and a summary subcontract report, SSR, annually in October. Late or missing reports show up in CPARs and weaken the prime's good faith effort defense if SBA ever audits the plan. So if you're a sub on a prime's plan, the prime has every incentive to give you real opportunities. Your invoices are how they prove their good faith effort. The AIDA Business Development Program, codified at FAR Subpart 19.8, is the federal government's most powerful small business runway. To qualify, you must be at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more individuals who are both socially and economically disadvantaged. The economic test is rigorous. Personal net worth no more than $850,000, average adjusted gross income no more than $400,000 over 3 years, and personal assets no more than $6.5 million, and your home and retirement accounts are excluded from those calculations. The firm itself must be small under its primary NAICS, and the owner must be of good character with potential for success. Once admitted, you spend up to 9 years in the program, 4 years in a developmental stage, and 5 in a transitional stage. The benefits are significant. Sole source awards up to $5.5 million for services and $8.5 million for manufacturing. Competitive AIDA set-asides where only other AIDA firms can bid, joint ventures through the SBA Mentor ProTech program, and a dedicated business opportunity specialist who walks you through every contract. 2 numbers to memorize for the 8A program. Sole source awards are capped at $8.5 million for manufacturing NAICS and $5.5 million for everything else, services, supplies, and construction. Above those ceilings, an ADA award must be competed among ADA firms or follow justification and approval procedures. The October 2025 FAR overhaul added a new wrinkle codified at FAR 19.108. Even below the sole source ceiling, contracting officers must first attempt to compete the order using government-wide ADA vehicles like ADA Stars 3 before going sole source. The example at the bottom shows how this plays out. A $4.2 million cyber engineering buy is technically eligible for sole source, but under the new rule, the CO will likely run it as a competitive 8 order first. So if you're ADA certified, don't just pursue sole sources, get on every 8 a GWAC you can. Subpart 19.13 governs the HUBZone program, historically underutilized business zones. The program is geographic. Your principal office must sit inside a HUBZone tract. These are designated by SBA based on poverty rates, unemployment, base closures, and tribal lands. At least 35% of your employees must reside in any HUBZone, and they must work at least 10 hours per week and have lived in a HUBZone for at least 90 days before SBA reviews your certification. The firm itself must still be small under its primary NAICS and at least 51% U.S. Citizen-owned, one certified, the benefits are substantial. There's a 10% price preference in full and open competition. There are total HUBZone set-asides. There's sole source authority up to the same ceilings as ADA, and the 3% government-wide goal is one of the most consistently missed, meaning agencies have unfilled demand they need you to satisfy. Here is what the 10% price evaluation preference looks like in a real bid. The gray bars are the actual prices submitted. A HUBZone firm at $1,050,000, large company A at $980,000, and large company B at $1,020,000. On face value, the HUBZone firm has the highest price. But under FAR 19.1307, the contracting officer adds 10% to every large business offer for the purposes of evaluation. The gold bars show the evaluated prices. A jumps to $1,078,000 and B jumps to $1,122,000. The HUBZone firm at its actual bid of $1,050,000 is now the lowest evaluated price and wins the award. This is one of the rare provisions where being a HUBZone firm can let you bid a few percent higher than the market and still come home with the contract. Subpart 19.14, the SDVOSB program, has been the most reformed corner of Part 19 in the last 2 years. The eligibility tests are familiar. At least 51% direct ownership by one or more service-disabled veterans with a VA or DoD service-connected disability rating, daily management and long-term decisions controlled by those veterans, and the firm must be small under its primary NAICS. 3 big changes you should know. First, the certification function moved from the VA to the SBA. VetCert is now the single front door. Second, self-certification ended December 22, 2024. Every federal SDVOSB set-aside award now requires SBA certification. Third, the NDAA for fiscal 2024 raised the government-wide SDVOSB goal from 3 to 5%. The good news is SBA cleared the certification backlog in November 2025. Average decision time is now about 12 days. If you're a service-disabled veteran owner who hasn't yet certified, this is the moment to do it. Subpart 19.15 covers the Women-Owned Small Business Program with 2 tiers. The base tier, WOSB, requires 51% ownership and control by U.S. citizen women with women running day-to-day operations and making long-term decisions. WOSB set-asides are limited to NAIS codes where SBA has determined women are underrepresented. The second tier, EDWOSB, economically disadvantaged WASPs, applies the same economic tests as the 8A program, personal net worth no more than $850,000, average AGI no more than $400,000, and personal assets no more than $6.5 million. EDWOSB set-asides cover an expanded NAICS list. Why this matters? An EDWOSB firm is eligible for both EDWOSB-coded and WASP-coded set-asides, a strictly bigger pool. So if you can qualify for both, certify for both, like SDVOSB, WOSB self-certification ended in October 2020. All set-aside awards require SBA certification through MISBA certifications. Here's a side-by-side cheat sheet of the 4 socioeconomic programs. The government-wide goals, 5% for small disadvantaged business, which ADA firms count toward, 3% for HUBZone, and 5% each for SDVOSB, and WOSB and WOSB. The owner tests are different. 8A requires social and economic disadvantage, HUBZone requires U.S. citizenship plus geography, SDVOSB requires a service-connected disability rating, and WOSB requires women owners who are U.S. citizens. Only HUBZone has a geographic test. 8A is the only program with a finite term, 9 years, 1 time per firm. The sole source ceilings are identical across all 4 $5.5 million for services and $8.5 million for manufacturing. HUBZone is unique in offering a 10% price preference and unrestricted competition. All four now require SBA certification. Use the bottom row to identify which program is the best primary fit for your firm. And remember, you can stack multiple certifications. Let's walk a real-world case from start to finish. The Department of the Air Force needs $400,000 of cybersecurity assessment services under NAICS 541512. Step 1. The CO posts a sources sought notice on SAM. Gov. ABC Cyber, an EDWOSB certified firm, responds with a capability statement and 3 past performance references. Step 2. In market research, the CO identifies ABC plus 2 other responsible small businesses, so the rule of 2 is satisfied. A small business set-aside is mandatory. Step 3. The agency is also short on its WOSB goal, and 541512 is on the WOSB eligible NAICS list. So the code sets the buy aside under FAR 19.1505B as a WOSB procurement. Step 4. ABC submits a $385,000 technical and price proposal. They're certified, small, and ready. Step 5. ABC wins. Now FAR 19.505 kicks in. ABC must self-perform at least 50% of the services with their own employees. Those similarly situated WOSB subs count toward that. Step 6. ABC delivers, gets a positive CPARS, and converts that past performance into the next pursuit. That is exactly how the system is designed to work, and how a savvy small business uses Part 19 to break in and scale up. 5 mistakes we see again and again, and 5 practices that separate the firms that win from the firms that submit. On the pitfall side, don't self-certify for programs that now require SBA certification. That means WOSB and SDVOSB. Map your affiliations carefully. Common ownership, control, or even certain contractual ties can bust your size. Don't ignore the 50% rule. It's been the basis for False Claims Act suits. Keep your SAM. Gov registration current. A lapse means you cannot be awarded. And track your subcontracting plan religiously. Missing reports look like bad faith. On the best practices side, stack the certifications you can. Multiple lanes into the same procurement. Respond to every source's sought notice. Track your size proactively so you can plan a graduation strategy. Build teaming agreements with similarly situated subs to satisfy the 50% rule. And brief your agency small business specialist quarterly. The contracting officer can only set aside a buy for you if they know you can do the work. Putting it all together, here's the practical roadmap. Step 1. Register. SAM. Gov is non-negotiable. Make sure your UEI, cage code, and NAIS list are complete and accurate. Step 2. Certify for whichever socioeconomic programs apply to you through MESBA certifications. Most certifications take 60 to 90 days. Step 3. Position. Write a tight one-page capability statement, build a past performance file, and shortlist 8 to 10 target NAICS codes. Step 4. Engage. Brief the agency OSDBU, the agency small business specialist, and SBA's PCR for that buying activity. Respond to 10 to 15 sources sought notices per quarter. That single discipline puts you on the market research list every contracting officer pulls from. Step 5. Bid the set-asides where you genuinely fit, deliver flawlessly, and reinvest your CPARS rating into your next pursuit. Most small businesses can do steps 1 through 3 in a single quarter and submit their first set-aside bid by the second. That brings us to the end of our deep dive into FAR Part 19. The bottom line, Part 19 is one of the most powerful tools any small business has to compete in the federal market, but it rewards firms that combine the right certifications with disciplined market engagement and clean compliance. If you'd like a partner to walk you through any part of what we covered today, eligibility analysis, certification preparation, capture strategy, or subcontracting compliance, Neybor Consulting is here to help. Visit Neybor Consulting. Come to book a complimentary 30-minute discovery call. We'll review your current position, identify the highest leverage next steps, and map a tailored federal contracting playbook for your firm. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to helping you turn FAR Part 19 into your next federal win.